So, hi Yael. Welcome to Happy Conscious Living. I'm super excited to have you here, and we've been working for some time now. So, you've been coaching me with the magazine, and can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself because a lot of people might not know you?
Okay, so I am a mother of five. I live in London. I'm originally from Israel, but I've been in London for 18 years and I absolutely love it. I'm I own an events company for 7 years in London, and for 2 years now, I've been coaching women in business.
Right. And yesterday you had your first webinar, if I'm not mistaken.
First ever webinar, yes.
How did that go?
It was exciting. It was longer than planned, but everybody stayed till the end, which I think is a good sign, and everyone seemed to have a good time.
Yes, because it was actually, I joined in to the webinar and it was only at that time that I realized that you're actually a single mom of five, which makes
Yeah.
it even a lot more impressive of what you're doing because you're actually, you're a full-time mom and you're running a business and you're successful. So like
Thank you.
how do you keep yourself in that standard? Because I can imagine you might lose yourself at some point, at some stage where you just need some me time. Like, how do you cope with that?
You know what? I was thinking about it today, funny enough. I remember there was a moment in time where I was getting really frustrated. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was dusting or cleaning, washing dishes, something of that sort, and I was kind of feeling frustrated with life. And something said to me, these children are a gift. They're your gift, they're your blessing, and there are a lot of people who can't have children. And, they would die to have them. And the other thing is that I had help from someone who does declutter, helps busy women like me declutter their homes. And the children at the time had loads of toys scattered everywhere. And she said, you know what, soon enough they grow up and it's just their phone and their computer, and it's a little bit sad. And now my big son, who's nearly 16, it's literally just the phone and the computer. So, when you put things into perspective, you have to be grateful. You have to give thanks for the blessings that you have. And also, these moments, like, for example, I have a new phone, and my son backed my old phone up. Before I knew it, my new phone was all set up, and I thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm growing four men. It can get very handy, in the house and generally in life. So how do I cope? I just don't see it as a disadvantage, or it's just the way, my approach to it, the way that I look at it, I think helps a lot.
Yes. And you actually come from a small town called Kibbutz.
Yeah.
That's where you're originally coming from. Like, can you tell us a little bit more? Like, what is the environment where you grew up in? Like, how did that affect you in life? And how did it turn you into the woman you are today?
Wow. Well, a kibbutz is a small community in Israel. So in Israel, there's a lot of different kibbutzes. Um, and it was interesting to grow there, mostly because when I was between 2 and 4, I went to live with my parents abroad. My father worked for the Home Office, and went to live in a normal environment. And then going back to the kibbutz, where we weren't staying with our parents, we had to sleep all the children together. Um, how did it affect me? I think it affected me in a way that mm, it taught me to be down to earth, connection with nature, and everything like that. And on the other side, because we didn't really have money, so we weren't allowed, and we were working in the community and getting everything free. So there was rent paid, and food and everything, but we weren't really allowed to work and make more money than what we need. And I was always a big dreamer. So I think sometimes when when you're not allowed to do something, it actually makes the dream stronger. So that's what comes to mind just now.
Yes. So when you were really dreaming of something big, like how did you break free from that setting? Because I can imagine it was an environment where, you had a lot of boundaries and you wanted to break free from that. So what was that point in your life that shifted everything? Like what helped you to completely start over?
You know what? I don't remember, I don't recall many critical points in my life. Everything is more like a journey, to be honest. I can recall loads of different things, but I did, as a child and as a young adult, always had the knowing that I'm not going to stay there. And I love my friends there and I love my family there and it's a beautiful place, but I always felt that it was a little bit too small for me. And I don't know if it was because I actually tasted other places in the world, so by the time I was 6 years old, I've already been to about 12 or 15 countries with my parents. And yeah, I always knew that I'm not going to stay there. The moment that I actually left was due to a very strange incident that involved an ex-boyfriend of mine and marijuana.
Right. How did that happen?
So I was kind of not forced to leave, but he had to leave and I decided to live with him. And that was really what's happened.
Wow. And because I know you had like a lot of businesses throughout your life. So when was the first time you actually started your first business?
So the first sort of business I went into was actually a kind of network marketing idea, but it wasn't a real one. So I put all of my savings into it. I paid my friends half, which he never gave back to me. So it was quite a traumatic experience. And I moved to the big city, and was going to make it a success. But then I realized that there was some voucher system that was supposed to come out. It never went out. And then I realized it's fraud, and I just left it. So that was like my first business. And then I think the next one was probably me making sandwiches and trying to sell them on the streets of Tel Aviv. So you can imagine me, Angelia, at 6 a.m. in the morning, riding my scooter, my little moped to the market in Tel Aviv, buying fresh bread, going back, buying avocados, going back, making all these sandwiches, and then going and trying to sell them. That was actually when I realized that it's very hard, to be making a product and selling the product. It's near impossible. So that was a good business lesson.
Yes, because I remember in the webinar you mentioned something about the 4 pillars of business, and you were talking about how you can create a product or a service and you're totally loving it, but how can you actually make your target audience love it? Can you explain a little bit more about those 4 pillars?
Sure. So that was a complete download I got the other day, which I got really excited about. Very simple stuff, but really interesting. The 4 pillars of business. So, the first one is the product. The second one is systems and structures. Then you have branding and marketing, and then there's the mindset piece. And in terms of the product, it goes the other way around. So it's not that you make a product and then you make people love it, but the idea is to do this successfully is that you create the product with them in mind. So you get to know your target audience, like the palm of your hand, and you actually can create something that they tell you that they want, or whatever it is that you want to be creating, you can create it in the way that they say they would be interested in buying it, if that makes sense.
Right. So it's more like almost like trying to figure out what problem they might have, or what are they really looking for? What is it that they need rather than what you think they need? Is that about right?
Absolutely right. You're always so much more empowered in your business if you know your people. we call it the tribe, right? Seth Godin, the god of marketing, has invented this term called the tribe. So, the tribe is your loyal following, your raving fans. And I think probably the most basic thing to do when you start a business is talk with some people, speak with someone who you think might be interested. So if you created something for single moms, let's talk about single moms, and you think, wow, this would be perfect for them, I'm sure they're going to want to buy it. Before you go too much into the systems and structures and the branding and marketing and all of that, speak to some single moms and ask them some really serious questions like, would you buy it? How much would you pay for it? Does this work for you the way it is? And the beauty of it is that your people will tell you. They will absolutely tell you everything you need to know. So you just have to invest the time and the knowledge, the expertise to then take that information and turn it into something amazing.
Yes, beautiful. And because you have a lot of experience throughout your businesses that you've gone through, so you had an event business, right? So what was a core lesson that you learned from that?
Wow. For my events business?
Yes.
Wow. There are a lot of lessons I've learned from my events business.
You can mention a few.
Oh, I have to think about that. I've learned that you have to sometimes kiss a lot of frogs to meet a prince. What I mean by that is that, you'd have to, sometimes in business, you have to do a lot of cold calling and speak with a lot of, potential clients until people say yes to you. And you have to be able, that's probably the most important thing I've learned there is the mindset piece. Because the systems and structures, for me, branding and marketing, those are things that come very naturally to me. And so I'm very good at very quickly creating a brand, creating the marketing campaign, putting structures and systems where people can actually pay and things like that. The mindset I was not prepared for.
Right.
So I always had a very strong mind, and I still do. But there are certain pieces that I've learned as I've gone along, and mostly the times that things didn't work out taught me a lot about how to, how to approach things and how to think about things, and really how to do things in a way that feels more harmonious, more in flow. I learned it the hard way, and I hope there is an easier way to learn it. I certainly try to teach my clients that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's as I said, it's a journey.
It's a journey. And is there something like, imagine you would be starting a completely new business from scratch. What would be the first few things you would kind of put together to make it a successful business?
So back to those 4 pillars, right? I mean, the mindset is an ongoing piece, and we can talk about that. That's not related, but the first 3 pillars. So first of all, I would make sure that the product is on point. And by the way, when you do your target market interviews and your market research, you might actually find out that your product is not going to be viable, which will save you so much time and aggravation, right? So once I did all of that and I realized, yes, I have a product that's viable, this is exactly how I'm going to do the product, then, I would do the systems and structures. So for me personally, always worked for me is having an amazing brand, the brand DNA, then the logo and the website and whatever I need to be able to sell the product or the service. And then I will have a marketing campaign.
Right. And you mentioned the word brand DNA. Like, what does that mean?
So I call it, in my coaching, I actually call it the core brand message. But the brand DNA, the way that I do it anyway, it's based on who you are as a brand, what do you stand for, and what's your mission. And then we take all of that, and normally when I work with my clients, actually, after we do that work, I get a vision. sometimes like a metaphor or something for their business, not always. And then building on all of that is your core brand message. So really, the brand DNA is the promise that you make to your clients. It's the story of your brand. It's the ethos. It's the mission statement. It's all of those things put together. What kind of brand is it going to be? Is it going to be a luxury brand? Is it going to be a mass market? Is it going to appeal? All of those things. Is that clear?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, because I'm just clarifying for people if they're hearing this for the first time, so they will know as well. And I remember from the webinar that you're mainly focusing on high-end clients, like you want to help women to really create a luxurious brand where they actually get to work less and actually receive more for as a value for their work. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. It doesn't have to be a luxurious brand to be high-end, by the way. Okay, high-end means different things to different industries. So you can totally be an energy leader and be high-end. And not, your branding and everything is not necessarily going to be luxurious. It might be something else. So luxurious is, when you say luxurious, I think Gucci, I think Chanel. I think, my brand does incorporate lifestyle in it, but, there's always, it's statistically 20% of your clients will want a premium service from you. So there's always scope to work with less clients and charge them more money. And in my industry, specifically coaching, I can serve those fewer clients better when I'm charging them more. And then there's the whole energetic thing that I don't know if you want us to go into.
Yes, please share with us.
So basically, money is energy. When you give a service or even a product, right, all the energy that went into making that product, then you get money in return. So you give in energy and you're getting energy back. And especially us as women, we're really sometimes scared to ask for what we really want to ask for, or we don't want to charge people too much. All of those things normally come from limiting beliefs that are to do with our money story. It's nothing to do with the way that money really works. Money isn't good or bad. It's neutral. It's a neutral energy, and it's really the people behind it that are neither good or bad, right? So I read a friend of mine, another very successful coach in London. He said that bad people with a lot of money will do lots of bad things, and good people will do lots of good things. And it just shows you it's not the money itself; it's the people behind it. So there is, money also has a frequency, and when you invest in yourself on a high level, your frequency rises, and then you are able to, the whole exchange is up leveled as a result of somebody investing in themselves, something that seems like a lot of money to them, but there's a stretch and an expansion that happens when somebody does that to you as the coach and to them as the client, which is just beautiful.
Right. So basically what you're saying, if people are only going for the free stuff and they're only going for, cheap marketing or cheap branding, so they're actually getting the cheap results for it in return. So really what you're investing, that's what's coming out of it.
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes you can invest a lot of money, and I have seen people do that into a website or a logo, and it absolutely sucks, right? So it doesn't mean necessarily, excuse my French, but it doesn't mean that when you invest a lot of money, you're necessarily going to get something good in return, right? So there is a piece of using your wisdom there and discerning, though a lot of people don't know, which is part of why I decided to do the program that I'm doing at the moment to help people with their branding and marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are people getting from this program? Because you're mainly focusing on the branding, if I understand correctly. So can you talk a little bit more, like what is the package that they get?
Sure. Thanks for asking that. So, Brand Yourself Wealthy is a program to help entrepreneurs. And normally, a lot of times people want to rebrand. So, it's not necessarily just for new businesses, but really help them understand. So, what we were talking about, the core brand DNA, the main core brand message. And once we've done that work and we're really clear on that, I will support them. If it's necessary, they will do the work to get to know their target market, and then we will create packages, or how the service is going to be, value it correctly according to their frequency, and make sure that they're charging what they can be charging, and then we will build. My team will help them create the logo and the website. And so within 6 to 8 weeks, they will have beautiful online presence. And then what I do with them is that I help them put together a marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. And, it's a very intense program for people who want to get results fast and want to make sure that the results they're getting are actually going to serve them for a long time to come. Because things go out of fashion so quickly these days, and to create something that's really on point for your brand, that's really timeless, almost, because we don't know what's going to happen in this in the online dimension in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but as timeless as possible. Then it's for those people that or for somebody who just doesn't have any idea where to start. They know they need all these pieces, but they haven't got a clue where to start. They need someone to hold their hand and really take them step by step through the process.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I just have a question to you. So we're Happy Conscious Living, and you're writing for a magazine every month, and we're very excited about that. So for the people who are watching this video, I highly recommend you to check out Yael's beautiful articles that she writes every month. But what does happiness mean to you?
Happiness?
Yes. What does happiness mean to you?
Happiness. Happiness to me is living my life to the full. Living life on purpose, knowing that I make an impact in people's lives. On a personal level, really happiness, the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me what it means, it's peace. So being at peace with myself, being at peace as much as possible with others, but mostly with myself. Because, when you're at peace with yourself, it's not necessarily that you're going to be at peace with the whole world, but the things that make me happy are spending time with quality time with my children. I love traveling. I love sunsets on the beach. I love live music. I just love to live life, and life makes me happy, and really being connected to God, my faith. That is probably the thing that every day, in the Bible it says joy comes in the morning. So every morning I wake up, I say, thank you, God, for another day. And there you go. Yes. We start the journey.
Yes. I really loved your Facebook Live where it was, I think, on the day of the eclipse, and there was some kind of retrograde, and you were like, we had enough retrogrades, and I had enough of this, and nothing can claim, my life except God. And I totally love that. And I think it really shows your mentality and from where you're coming as really serving as a coach for people. And I can see you're very, very passionate about it. And I really love the light that shines through your wisdom that you share with other people. So thank you so much, Yael. And is there something else that you would like to say to the people that are watching right now?
I want to say thank you, Angelia, because you've been given a mission with the magazine. You picked up the glove. You're doing something you've never done before, and you're doing it beautifully. So thank you for shining your light, and of course, thank you for featuring me in the magazine. I'm really humbled and honored.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure having you here. And please definitely check out Yael's website. It's yaelrosecoaching.com.
.com. Yeah.
Yes, all right. And I believe there is another webinar coming up. So, how do you know the date?
No, I don't know. I'm waiting for guidance. Well, the truth is, I'm going to Paris next week, so I'm very focused
Yes.
on going to one of my favorite cities in the world and, resting a little bit. I really believe in working hard, playing hard, resting hard. So I'm taking time to really, ask what is the next step and how best can I serve. And I will probably ask my tribe what would they like me to teach them next, and then we will proceed from there.
Okay, brilliant. Well, definitely keep us posted. And I'm sure that if people go to your website, they can subscribe to your newsletter and stay tuned to that. So thank you so much, Yael. And I wish you the most beautiful, beautiful time of your life.
Thank you.